Boston followed the path of a modern European city. After settling the new territory and launching its industry, it sought to establish itself as a cultural capital that would represent the nation in the formation of its own identity.
Boston is one of the cities closest to Europe, and in that sense, the journey over was more comfortable, easier. Crucially, they were also the first to have the idea of colonizing the territory. They were not there only to pass through on their way to other places. They wanted to stay, and the first thing they thought about, which is very important in Boston, was education and the university. From very early on, they were clear that it had to be a center of culture, and that they had to establish educational institutions so that people could progress and live better. Harvard University was founded, which is essential to understanding the city and to understanding what all that New England territory is, which consists of 5 states covering a huge area, but in which everything revolves around the city itself because of that cultural and educational influence it had. Writers, philosophers, thinkers, and novelists had formed a community of writers with a very rich cultural life around a few focal points in the city: the Athenaeum, the hotel, the university, 3 or 4 very important places. From there, culture radiated across the entire territory, because these writers lived in the towns that were more or less far away and regularly came to Boston to meet with their colleagues and build a kind of community of thought. And that is very interesting and attractive because it ties the whole territory, both the nearest states and the more distant ones, closely to the lives of those figures and to what they wrote.
Industrial expansion shaped the territory in a singular way. Boston did not emerge from a pre-established urban plan, but from growing business needs.
Very early on, the potential offered by technology was harnessed for industry, creating satellite cities around it that, by making clothing and textiles, set in motion what became American industry. They are the promoters of all North American industry. They are there in several towns beside Boston, which had plenty of water, canals, and enough energy to drive the looms and machines. From there, an elite of businessmen emerged who knew how to shape the city to their liking. In other words, there was no grand plan in Boston. Instead, they were making each piece according to what they believed its purpose should be, because they cared for the city and nurtured it. Of course, they did it for themselves. They were not thinking about anyone else, but the city followed exactly the guidelines that that elite, that club of major businessmen, wanted to impose on it. Boston was originally a very narrow peninsula with many tidal inlets around it, which flooded with the tide, then dried out, and they drained them all, building each area in a layout that has more to do with filling land than with the rest of the city. So, seen from the air, it is almost like a patchwork, right? Like a kind of patchwork of scraps sewn together, where you can sense different construction periods, different intentions, different materials, and the streets are different too. This creates a very peculiar city, very interesting and very attractive.
Boston has managed to maintain its own pace and has never stopped evolving. Its importance in the country is equal to that of other major cities such as New York, San Francisco or Chicago.
It was never the first, but it has always been among the leaders, one of the most important, and it has been a total leader in culture, technology, and even business in many cases. Because when the 19th century industry ended, they quickly moved into technology and began to do very big things. It is a city that has prospered greatly thanks to that initial seed planted by the founders. The pioneers, they call them in America, who were a few Irish families that ended up there. There are many major projects in the city in which ACS has participated.